I lived through my own death, and now this period of time exists, but the probability branch where I, Deneva, am no longer in this incarnation has ended at night. For a very long time, I didn't recognize the eyes. I tried to understand who was lying next to me. I didn't recognize my daughter nor my son, and I didn't understand where I was. And in general, who I am and what my name is, I really saw my own death. I was driving my car. I remember that stretch of road exactly. I drive on it every day. And then I was hit, and there was a note in front of me. I stared at it. It was lying on the roadside, twitching, and then turning back to the road. Basically, I saw the headlights and then a bang. That was it. There was the singing of angels. There was a moment when there was just emptiness and a lot of light and nothing else. There were no intrusive thoughts, no unnecessary fuss, and absolutely no one judging or thinking anything. Simply, really, there was just a state of pure being and slowly dissolving into it. I don't know how long I was in that state, but when I came to, it was just like that. So I have the feeling that for a very long time I wasn't breathing because that first breath, it was very painful. It felt as if my lungs opened up again. And for a long time I was coming back to myself, trying to understand, to realize where I was and who I was. And since then, I have been in parallel worlds. It was like that even before. That is, now I very clearly and very often live my life, also in a parallel world, as a girl, a teenager who studies at the School of the Future in another civilization. I know why I have this gift, because I need to bring this knowledge and information here. And in general, right now, here, I congratulate you if you are here now, and I congratulate you if you are watching this broadcast, because you will definitely walk this path in this form, or you are already walking it. When we lose all meaning, what is this? What is happening to me? What is happening to me? What is happening to me is that the ego is dying because God is coming into this body.
Yes.
Many different topics are touched upon in the video, yes, as you've noticed.
Actually, there's just one topic here, seen from slightly different angles.
Well, yes, that is true, if we go in order. Let's begin with the fact that the girl says she experienced her own death.
And
how do you see it? Is that possible? Is she telling the truth? Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I'll say more. That is, she says that people have several parallel lives at the same time. That's true. Who has read my series? The Essence, by the way. Who has read my series? The Essence. Give it a like. And for those who haven't read it, there's a link down below. I consider this one of the most important series I've written recently. The series The Essence. I went, so to speak, from Earth all the way there to this eternity and infinity in the purest way possible. And right there I described certain, let's say, approaches to the necessary level of the higher self, from which you can already see not just a single life on Earth, you see several parallel lives at once. I feel them too, though I haven't studied them yet. I really want to study them and maybe write a series on this topic. In fact, this morning I was thinking about it on my way to the shoot. So what she says, yes, that's exactly how it is. Nearly every single one of us leads several parallel lives, and frequently they are not on Earth. Well, I mean, on Earth. We usually have a kind of conditional mini-cycle that we go through on Earth. A certain number of lives, maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200. It depends on the person how many. But for many souls, for some, Earth is actually the very first planet where they live. But many souls simultaneously go through other cycles as well. And that's exceptionally fascinating. Plus, we often, by the way, even within Earth, live and reside, for example, on a variety of different branches. Sort of parallel branches of Earth. Basically, you can live on a completely different planet in another world, living another life at the same time, or you can live on a parallel branch of Earth, meaning in a parallel world. That's why she describes it that way. She's absolutely right. That's exactly how it is. And by the way, she also mentioned something very important here. It turns out that she actually experienced this moment of death firsthand, on one of the specific branches, so to speak, in one of her many previous lives. And at that exact moment, she underwent this internal shift. That is, a shift of consciousness, as if over there into a parallel world, and she perceives it better. She captured this multidimensionality, so to speak, by experiencing this dying process. There, essentially, she focused herself. Yes, she focused on this process, on this world, and that's when it happened for her. That very shift. Now, she says, she feels the parallel world better, and that's how she works. That is...
Basically, let's say you and I, we're sitting here right now, talking, and it could be that right now, somewhere on another planet, you and I are at war, everything is happening simultaneously. But we are aware of ourselves right here and now. I'm just curious how to explain this to someone so they can understand. Because it sounds very...
It could be, but not with you. Again, that's for sure.
Peace, there was peace, right?
With you, everything is fine.
It is about being more aware of yourself in several different ways. Worlds. So for the girl, this happened precisely because at the moment of death, she switched to somewhere else. That is, she ended up in a space and a shift in consciousness that caused it.
Just didn't quite understand from her description. So did she die here, or did she remember some kind of death? It's not entirely clear here.
It feels like she's narrating a story where she was involved in a serious car crash, right? And it almost feels as though she died. Well, so I suppose that maybe it was clinical death?
Clinical death, maybe.
Yes, that is correct. So could something like this have been the cause of it?
It could.
Right? Shifted consciousness or a new perception?
The higher self. It's up above. It sends. It is essentially somewhat like, yes, like these rays of attention, as we often call them on the blog. If one ray happens to get disconnected or fades, well, another one begins to shine much more brightly. One of those from the remaining rays, that's if she really did have clinical death. And if she remembered dying somewhere in a parallel world, then she kind of got fixed in that very parallel world. That's exactly what I was just talking about. So she experienced this shift. That is, she became more clearly, more distinctly aware of this very... The world in any case may be such that all of this ultimately leads you to start remembering. Well, certain things that are completely uncharacteristic for you, as if you are living a life, but not here. By the way, many people feel this way. Let us know in the comments if you also have the sense that you are living as if a life, but not here. As if it's not just your one single life, and as if there is something else entirely, this very feeling of something more. Essentially, it's like a kind of light portal. With the right skill in working with all of these elements, you can go through it. You can sort of dive in there and see, so what kind of life is it exactly that you are living?
But for example, you can enter this portal and then you can just stay somewhere around there, right over here in this area.
Because once again, this is a very well-known cautionary tale that you can, I don't know, go into meditation and not come back out. Yes, you could go somewhere, just fly away and never come back. But still, you mostly remain here. Your mental body is assembled here, your astral body is assembled here, your etheric body is assembled here, connected to the physical. No, that's not how it works. A lot of people, well, not a lot, but sometimes people write to me like, you talk about techniques for remembering past lives. That's how people lose their minds. Right now, I'm finishing my second higher education, this time in psychology. People lose their minds in a different way. That's the maximum, the absolute maximum. It won't cause schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, as I once said in one of my videos. If your memories of past lives were enough to trigger a condition like schizophrenia, then most likely you were already dealing with these symptoms in an ambulance on your way to a psychiatric hospital. If your mind is already in such a fragile and broken state that your memories of a past life broke it, then even a cup of cold tea in the morning could have broken it, simply because it was cold and not warm. Well, I mean, it's the same thing here. The fascinating concept of memories of past lives and memories of some parallel lives. What we're talking about here now is a truly captivating and deeply intriguing subject to explore. And it's not so much that it will drive you crazy, it's more that it just won't yield to you. But if it does give way, and you actually find yourself falling right into it and can see it, well, you can discover a lot of fascinating things about yourself.
So how does this actually happen in practice? I'm just curious. For example, do you enter through your higher self and observe, becoming aware simultaneously? Specifically, experiencing yourself in several places at once.
I'll explain in a few words. Again, what is the higher self? The higher self is you. It's your eternal, multidimensional part. Essentially, all practices of contacting the higher self. I mean genuine practices, not channeling from the higher self, where you still remain here in your consciousness. Essentially, when you engage in authentic higher self spiritual practices, you follow the path of disidentification. That is, you peel away, layer by layer, all identifications, physical identifications, any kind really, all your mental overlays now. And you become completely transparent, like that very stone which under immense pressure, heat and everything else we've got becomes transparent to the light. You also become transparent to your own light, shining through from within. So essentially what I'm talking about is a kind of analog to enlightenment. Probably, but enlightenment is a brand these days, whereas in reality, enlightenment is just a clearing, a gap through the blocks. The mind, and through this light, you touch the higher, the self, you sort of shift into transcendence. In other words, your, roughly speaking, assemblage, if we use Castaneda's terms, shifts into transcendence, into eternity. You become eternal as yourself, and when you become eternal as yourself, from there you can go further, since you are, in a sense, above. With this embodiment, you can already observe anything you want simply by your own request, because essentially you shift your assemblage point to that level from which everything is clearly and effortlessly visible. What I mean is, it's not exactly a separate practice where you have to engage in a particular or specific type of activity in order to touch something, no? The point is that you shift to a certain height, and from that height you simply perceive and observe everything around you.
So it is really just like entertainment, just to,
Listen,
again,
when you ascend to a higher level, your logic of perception changes slightly. The priorities that seemed so important to you here, they no longer seem important. All of the things that seem so important here, like work or I need career growth, they start to become much less significant. It's fine. It's fine in the sense that it supports you. Here it brings in money, and with that money you can feed your body. But that's all, nothing more for the higher purpose. Your mission, the reason you came here, is much more important. And this is the difference in perspectives. What was and what is now, this is the first criterion that you are truly reaching for something higher. You start to see everything much more wisely. More from the perspective of eternity, and from there, for example, recalling your parallel incarnations, feeling them, this seems like a very interesting task, not in the sense of, not out of some earthly curiosity like, oh, that's just interesting, but rather as if it fills you with some new experience that you can bring into your mission here on this planet. So the logic there is not human at all, actually.
But for example, if we become aware of our parallel worlds, when we realize this, do we then relive that specific experience? Or what does it look like? Or do we just watch it like a movie or something?
It depends on how you approach it. Most often it's more like, it's quite similar to, well, once again, for example, when I sense my own parallel life, when I reach a high enough level of my higher self where I feel this truly immense and profound connection. An immense structure, eternal, wise, radiant, simply filled with light. Yes, with this inner harmony, I kind of see that down below is my incarnation on Earth. But it's also on the level of sensations, meaning it's not so much a visualization as it is more on the level of feeling. It's precisely the sensation, being there in a deep trance, quite a deep one. I sense parallel, sort of, well, certain. Let's say these vibrant clusters of energy. And then this specific cluster of energy, you can really start to focus your mind intently on it. And from it, you can extract certain information, either translating it into images, into some kind of visuals, or translating it into tactile sensations, or even auditory ones. I don't know, smells and so on and so forth. In other words, it depends on what you pull out and how your mind interprets it. Here on Earth, we still filter all of this through our earthly perception. So the most important thing is the information itself. That is, you draw information from there, but how is that information interpreted? The form it takes depends on your mind.
And can we draw some kind of parallel here with our ego? That is, our ego and these identifications with everything around us are exactly what prevent us from entering into this broader consciousness, this wider understanding.
From feeling. Yes, absolutely right. The ego and the mind, in the broadest sense of the word, specifically the mind as a dictator. Earlier, you and I discussed a video about prison, about the idea that planet Earth is a prison. Maybe it will be somewhere here. But the main jailer on this planet Earth is the mind. Every person has their own jailer. Not planet Earth, not the Illuminati, not the Masons. The truth is that every single person carries their own jailer much closer than all these frightening tales about some mysterious forces that keep us here. That is exactly why, by working with the complexities of your own mind, effectively turning your jailer into a helpful assistant or a helpful interpreter of your internal world, because ideally the mind should serve you. It becomes, I have seen this in hundreds of my students who go through the school, it becomes what I see in them. I see that their mind eventually becomes an assistant. The mind remains, it doesn't go anywhere. But it's like, it's like a processor that condenses this vast multidimensionality. It brings it here into three-dimensionality and gives it words, forms of expression. Exactly like an interpreter, an assistant, but not a dictator. It no longer gets in the way of reaching that height. It allows you to describe that height in such a way that the human mind and other minds can understand what is being talked about. That's what I'm trying to do now, as best as I can. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I understood you. Thank you very much for your answers. Friends, write your questions, share impressions, and comment. We see and read everything, and it makes us happy. Also, you can find all the links in the description below.
My dear friends, for 10 years now, I've been teaching a course on the higher self for a Russian-speaking audience. During this time, about 4,000 to 4,500 people have passed through my school. I've been working on this topic for 20 years. Today, my school is one of the largest and most famous specialized schools for connecting with the higher self in the Russian-speaking world. And then I suddenly realized that it is finally time to reach out to the masses, so to speak. Yes, to the much wider world and to the incredibly vast expanse of the entire global internet. All the professional skills I have carefully developed, all the dedicated practices I have refined, and all the quick entries, thorough checks, and rigorous exams I have built over the last 10 years are now being brought to a truly global level. I now invite you to join a brand new, specially discounted group for the comprehensive Return to the True Self course, now available in English for students everywhere. 6 months of work on stopping the internal dialogue, working with blocks, and focusing on actually accessing the higher self. Answering both simple and complex questions regarding purpose, contact with God, and with the planet. Answering basically any questions on any topic, including work, relationships, and anything at all. Manifesting desires through the higher self, viewing past lives through the higher self, and everything that didn't fit into the first 5 months in a separate 6th one. And after that, you'll have the opportunity to join the alumni club, as well as the chance to continue your studies at the 2nd level of the school. The price for the discounted groups is discounted. You can find all the information about this below at the link under this video.